Hey, everybody. I'm looking a little blurry here, ain't I? And clarity. How is everyone doing? It's another live chat session time, our monthly live chat. Wherever you are joining from, let me know. Say hi in the comments. Let me know what city or what country you are here from, so I can give you guys a little shout out as well. Maria in the house. Our last podcast episode was your topic. I'm glad you already had a chance to listen to it and glad you enjoyed it. Also, good luck on your competition in Mexico. Yep, Mexico it is. Greg, good morning. Kelly from France. Hi, bonjour or bonsoir, because I think it's evening for you already, right? Greg, where are you joining from? Oile from Long Island, New York. New York always in the house. Wade from the Big Apple, Queens. Hi, Wade. Lennon from Peru. Nice. Harut. Where are you joining from? Ihan from Berlin. Sonia from, I don't know. Where else are we? Our peoples. All right. So for those of you joining, as always, like I said, I really love to know where everyone is from, because it's quite interesting to see how international the live chat attendance can be, which is quite exciting for me to be able to reach so many people with messages that I think are important, or at least have helped me in my life, and getting a chance to put that out there. I think pre-COVID and pre-everything being online and Zoom and live streaming, I don't think I would have ever thought I could use this medium as an opportunity to reach people, but here we are, right? So one benefit of COVID, of many that I could list, I'm sure. Lenice from Mexico City. Sonia from Kearney. Kearney is my town, New Jersey. Greg, Southern California. Why is this live chat thing still on? We are already started. Appreciated your TED Talk on rejection in dance. Well, that TED Talk was for rejection in general. I know I gave a lot of examples from dance, but in reality, it is how we deal with rejection in general. Quick question for my people on Instagram. Is my audio clear? I don't have my headset plugged in, and my laptop is right next to my phone, and I'm not sure if there's any like hum from the laptop. If there is, let me know. I can plug in headphones. As you can see, there's like quite a complex setup just to make sure my sound is clear to all of you. So I want to make sure that that is good for you guys on Instagram as well. Patty, Long Island. Oh, Wade, Maria, Wade also wishes you a good luck in the competition. Alvin from Chicago. Very cool. Oh, Harut from Armenia. I've been to Armenia once. I was there for 2 days, and it had a really beautiful time there. The Armenian whiskey, I think it's an Armenian whiskey, is really good. I think I have a tiny sample bottle of it up there. Very cool. All right. Sound is perfect. Excellent. Secret Garden Bay from New Jersey. All right. For those of you joining for the first time, this is a monthly live chat that I've been doing. Well, this is our 21st edition of it, so that'll tell you how long it's been going on. The purpose of the live chats is to bring some information, some lessons that I've learned, whether it's dance or something in life in general, and try and present that in the best way possible to all of you so that you can get some benefit out of it too. What I have learned through my life, my many years on this earth, which might be significantly more than many of you and significantly less than some, is that we all go through things in our lives and we think that they are quite trivial, compared to other people, what they might be going through, but they end up being really, really big moments in our life, transformative moments in our life. And our ability to deal with them is one of the reasons for our personal growth and our personal development. And what I've learned through sharing many things about dance, as well as the TED Talk on rejection, is that sometimes just sharing our own experiences can help other people, you know? And I'm sure many of you already do that when it comes to your own friendships, your own relationships, perhaps with your coworkers, or if you're in the dance community with other dancers. And in that way, you're supporting each other. If you have a platform like I do, why not also use this platform to reach more people, right? So that's one of the reasons I've been doing the live chats. The other reason for the live chat is that there are so many other elements to our success, whether it's in dance or anything else, than just pursuing the actual technical aspect of what we're trying to learn or what we're trying to be good at. What I've learned in dance is that there's maybe 20% of the technical skill that is required. And then the 80% is about your mindset. It's about how you think about it, how you think about connection, how you think about your personal creativity and your self-expression, and then how you deal with obstacles like judgment and rejection and criticisms to be able to put yourself out there in the most authentic way possible. So these live chats, yes, there are some live chats that are focused on dance stuff. And then there are some like today's live chat, which is about the challenges of giving and receiving help. So one of the ways that I got here personally, and actually before I get into that, I'm going to pose a question to all of you who are present. Feel free to throw the answers into the chat. This live chat, if you're wondering why I'm looking here and then looking there and then looking here and looking there, is because I go live on YouTube, my Facebook profile, my Facebook page, as well as Instagram. So I've got my phone here and I've got my laptop here. So, I am still here focused with all of you. Okay. So the question that I have for you, and the question I actually posed on Facebook and on Instagram in the stories was, what kind of makes you hesitate to ask for help when you're needing help? But the question I'd like to ask you today is, first, what are some examples of support when you're feeling down or when you need help? Like, give me some examples of support. What do you consider support? What does support look like? What does help look like? So throw that into the chat. We'll get to that in a minute. Again, if you are joining, please say where you're from. I will give you a shout out. And also, one of the best ways to engage with these live chats is through questions and through comments. If you're on Instagram, there is a little question mark at the very bottom. You can click on that and submit your question. You can, of course, also add it to the comments into the chat. Just a challenge for me is when I am scrolling through the chat, it might be hard for me to come back and find your question. So at least if it's in the question box, I can get to it very easily. Facebook and YouTube, you guys can just throw it into the comments. That's all visible to me right here, so I can get to that. And then the feedback form. I know I always talk about the feedback form, but for those of you completing the feedback form, and you guys have basically until the next live chat, I will pick a random person out of the people who submit the actual feedback form, because everyone says thank you here, but no one actually, not no one, but a lot of you don't actually go to the feedback form to give me more details on like what exactly did you find valuable in today's live chat, right? Since every live chat has a different topic, I'm curious, like, what was your takeaway? The more you express and share those things with me, the easier it becomes for me to understand, okay, what should I focus on, or what do I need to clarify, or what could be a future topic, or just to understand you better and know whether I am actually providing value, right? Because the whole purpose of this is not for me to come out and talk for however long we go, which is what happens. I'm here talking, but ultimately, it is to provide some sort of value, some sort of resource that you can use in your life to improve. Okay. So the feedback form is, you can get it from my website, magnagopal.com. If you just go to the contact section, there's a couple of different feedback forms there. The live chat feedback form is there, but if not, you can also go to magnagopal.com/feedback, and that'll take you directly to the live chat feedback form. And again, like I said, I will choose a winner at random from all of our live chats every time. So, a winner each month, basically, to get a discount on the combo membership that is available on my website, my online learning platform, which is learn.magnagopal.com, but you can find all of that information on my website. That is the combo database. That is all dance instruction, mindset, technique breakdowns, full class replays, as well as all of the fitness stuff that I do to train myself to be in the best health, to be in the best mental space, and to be able to show up and perform as I do when it comes to dance itself. Okay, so you can use that. If you've already signed up to the membership, great. But if not, you can also you can also share that as a gift with someone else. So even if you're on the membership or you've tried it out or it's not for you right now, that is something that you can gift to someone else. But you got to complete the feedback form. Make sure you put your correct email in there so that I can let you know if you are the winner. Cool. All right. Carolina from Texas. Cool. Support, one of the answers to the question I had just asked. Support has smiling, non-judgmental eyes. Beautifully put. Love it. Greg said, I went through something tough recently and immediately reached out for emotional support from my community. I also specifically requested that they not provide advice as I wasn't ready for it yet. That's also beautiful. Very clear request. Sonia says, support as being a good listener and no judgment. Excellent answers here. And on Maria, your question, to clarify the question rather, is the actual support from the community to your actions as a dancer or a teacher, or regarding guidance, coaching, etc. So today's topic, yes, of course, it can relate to help as it pertains to getting guidance in dance if you're taking dance and you want more help or more support. But today's topic is a little bit deeper than that, and it's kind of about getting the help and support we need when we're in really difficult emotional places. So let me go into why this topic. Oh, got disconnected here. Sorry about that, folks. 1 second. And we are back. Okay. So let me explain why this topic and why now. So in the past month, there were 3 kind of pivotal moments, pivotal things that happened in my life that I didn't quite think would be as important as they ended up being. The first was a death, not even of a close friend, but a very close friend of mine. And I went to the funeral, and I have the last time I went to a funeral was, I think, in 2005. For those of you who've been around in the dance scene for that long, that was David Melendez. He used to organize the New York Salsa Congress, the original New York Salsa Congress, and he passed from cancer. And that was the first funeral that I had ever been to with like an open casket. And I haven't been to any others actually since then. Not to say that there haven't been people that have passed away in my life, but maybe they've passed away and they live in another country or something. But I haven't been to a funeral. So I went to this funeral and I thought that I would go as support for my friend, and that, I'm quite strong emotionally, so I'm not really going to have any issues when I go there, and I can be this modicum of support for my friend. And I walked into that funeral, and from afar, I mean, like the casket was at the other end of the room. From afar, I saw the open casket. I had met this person. I had spent time with this person. They were lovely, joyful, super friendly, very generous, warm, just a lovely person. And I saw them from the other side of the room, the open casket, and I started crying, right? I started crying. I had to leave the room. I had to leave my friend who I was there to support. I had to leave the room. And I couldn't understand why I was so emotional in that moment, because this is not even someone that's really close to me. Yes, I've met this person, but they're not someone that I'm personally connected to. So why am I feeling such strong emotions by being at someone else's funeral? And I realized that because he was young, he had just turned 30 years old. So it was a month after his 30th birthday that he passed. In his life, he had everything set. He had like house, cars, boats, all these things that he got from his family, but he had lost his parents. He had lost his mom at a younger age, and then he had lost his father not too long ago. And when I saw the casket, basically the emotion that was going through me was, shit, you know, I've spent time with you and other people that are closer to you who you've obviously opened up to. Um, you were so strong and so kind and so friendly to everybody, but here you were struggling with something that nobody understood that you were struggling with, and you could not deal anymore, to the point where and this, you know, the little extra detail, it wasn't an accident. This person didn't get hit by a car or a natural cause of death. It was an overdose, you know. And drugs and addictions to things like that are usually an escape, right? For a lot of people is our ability to, like, all the problems that we have in our life that we are confronting right now, we don't want to deal with it, and so we find something else, right? In this case, obviously, he took too much of that something else and went into a coma, and then within a week had died, right? So I was looking at this person and thinking to myself, shit, I would have never known, right? I would have never looked at this person and said, they're going through anything, right? Like, yes, I get it. You lost your family, but like, you lost both parents, but the way he presented himself, you could never ever grasp that, right? And then the other element of it was, for me, was, how do I get help and support for the difficult moments in my own life, right? And it's not to say that just because I'm out here and I'm dancing and I'm having fun and I talk to everybody and I'm like pleasant and I'm always engaging with a smile, does not mean that I'm not going through my own shit, right? I mean, we all are, well, but we are, most of us are capable of kind of presenting a facade almost, right? When we are out in public or when we're out with other people, to kind of suppress what it is that we're struggling with, and instead put on that happy face, right? And so it made me think, how do I deal with help and support? Do I reach out? How do I reach out? And how do other people reach out, right? How am I being a supportive person to other people in my life? Like this person who took his own life, overdose. So I don't know if he intended to, but it ended up happening, right? Died of an overdose, had friends that were close, and he didn't feel like he could reach out. And those friends didn't understand or did not know how to approach him to get him to open up to them in this vulnerable way, so that he could process the emotions that he was feeling and not have to resort to an escape, right? So that was one moment. The other moment was, how many of you know of the Young Schema test? I forgot the full name of the guy, but it's like a personality test of sorts, but it's more about like your upbringing and the ways you answer these questions. It's almost like 200 questions. The way you answer these questions reflects basically what your upbringing was, what your developmental stages, and the kind of maladaptive response that you have to your childhood development and how it manifests itself into your adult life. So if you've ever heard of Young Schema, like, throw that into the chat. But anyways, I did this test, this self-assessment, and a couple of things came up. Right now, most of the time when I do personality tests and stuff, I have a tendency to kind of look at all the positive traits and say, yeah, hell yeah, I'm independent. Yes, I'm a leader. Yes, I am strong and confident, and I can find solutions to everything. Those are the things that I look at, right? And when it says, oh, sometimes you're a little bit distant, whatever. I don't look at it as anything, a big statement, right? A big judgment on who I am. This Young Schema test, however, my results, right, like the highest one was unrelenting standards. So if you know me personally, you're probably nodding your head like, yeah, I'm not surprised, right? But another one was abandonment, right, and social isolation. So these were a couple of things. And the way this test presents those results is not in like a flowery view, right? It doesn't present it like, hey, this is a great trait. Good thing that you have it. I hope you're using it well in your life. No, it's presenting it in a way that says, look, this is a problem. And you, now that you understand what your maladaptive traits are from childhood, you need to work on these things so that they don't negatively impact your life, that they don't sabotage your relationships, right? And your successes in life. And so that was the other part, right? This was the other second thing that I went through. And I was like, holy shit, I didn't even realize that this is something that I am dealing with. And yes, it does come from childhood, which I'll go into a little bit later. The third thing was someone very, very close to me who has been struggling with quite a few things, particularly this year, but also kind of last year, who I have desperately wanted to be there for, but have been incapable of being there for this person, right? And as a Greg, yes, young schema questionnaire. That is correct. So anyone who's on YouTube, you should be able to see that comment in the chat. Let me, I don't think I can actually post. Maybe I can. Hold on. I'll write it here. Young schema questionnaire. So this person who's very close to me, I wanted to be there, but I was incapable, and I didn't realize how I was showing up and why I was showing up the way I was and what was actually required of me in terms of providing support to this person, um, and how they communicated that to me, right? Fortunately, we had one unbelievably like a breakthrough of a conversation, and that's the part that brought me to this particular topic, is because giving support is not as difficult as we make it to be. And sometimes the way we approach giving support to someone else, what we understand support to be, sometimes makes it difficult for us to ask for support for that same reason, because we think that it's a lot, right? And so now we don't want to ask because we think we're asking for a lot. Okay, just a couple comments. It's important to remember at first that it's okay to not be okay, to not feel fine, and engage that so that we can get the chance to go through it and eventually get over it. And she lives in Sweden, where winter is very long, cold, and very dark, which I imagine can also be very depressing. All right, so let's go into the challenges of asking for help. I'm going to go first off of some of the comments that you all left in the Facebook post and Instagram. The question that I had said was, when you need help or support, what makes you hesitant to ask for it? These are some of the answers. Waiting for the right Instagram, waiting for the right moment, conditioning to not ask for help. This was as a man. Fear of refusal, fear of being viewed as weak, lack of trust. On the Facebook posts, pride, upbringing, societal pressures, being the giver, so never asking, inconsistent people who say they care but they don't show up when you ask, being judged, appearing weak, people not understanding because of a lack of the same experience, shame, no one has time, a sense of a reciprocal obligation where asking for help comes at a cost, where you now owe something, embarrassment, being taught to be strong and independent, growing up not asking, so back to conditioning, a lack of courage, judgment, rejection, appearing weak. So I don't know if you can relate to any of those. I can relate to almost all of them personally, okay? So my challenge with, or what has made me hesitant to ask, and how I generally deal with moments where I need support, is from childhood, I've been one of those people who's always creatively approaching problems, right? So if I encounter a problem, yes, it might hurt. Yes, I might be emotionally down in that moment, but I'm always trying to find a way out, right? I'm trying to find some solutions. Like, what could I do? What are possible ideas? What are possible options from this moment? And so when I ask for help, it's not really that I'm asking for help with my problem. I have already kind of come up with a couple of solutions, and I'm asking for guidance on which solution to pick, right? And so if we're like, look at a plane like this, right? So this is our highs and this is our low. I sometimes kind of hit the ground, the low running, right? And so I have a little bit of a lift to immediately come back up. And that's mainly because of the way I approach problems is I'm like, okay, need to find a solution, need to find a solution. What are the possibilities here, right? And I'm already working to get myself back up. But sometimes when we're at that low, when we're feeling down, like we need help to get out of that. We don't have the solutions, right? Now, why am I the way I am? Going back to um, the childhood stuff, right? Going back to this like personality and how my conditioning affects how I deal with asking for help. And it's because I've grown up very independent. And I've grown up very independent, not out of, ooh, can I be dependent and have a lot of supportive people or be independent? No, I had no choice. I had to grow up independent because I didn't have a family. I didn't have a network around me that was interested, that was attentive, that was supportive. Like my parents were pretty absent, in my growth. Like maybe my very, very childhood, like early years, but then there wasn't really much interaction. So I realized that if I needed to get through something, I could not rely on them, right? They did not prove themselves capable of meeting my emotional needs as a child. And so that is what's contributed to me being as independent as I am now, for me to not be able to ask for help when I'm feeling at that low, because I don't think that anyone's going to be there, right? As a result of the people who should have been there not being there, right? And I don't know if you're familiar with like attachment styles and things like that. There's this these 5 words. It's called CARP, CARRP, which is consistency, availability, reliability, responsiveness, and predictability, right? And what what we get, like people in our lives, if they are lacking these things, we have these insecure attachment styles, right? So for me, did I have consistency? Nope. Were they available physically, but emotionally? Nope. Were they reliable? Not really, because if I opened up about something, it was kind of dismissed, like, yeah, don't worry about it. Okay, or I'll take care of it later, and they never do. How were they responsive? They were not responsive. If I shared something that was painful or hurtful, the response was not, oh, well, let's talk about that. It was like, okay, grow up, stop making a big deal out of this, right? Or I don't know why you're talking about this. Like I had to go through this and I went through that just fine, right? And then predictability, I wasn't sure if they would be around and how they would be around, right? So if you're looking at yourself in your life right now, I'm curious, right? Ask yourself, like, did you have those 5 things from your family, from your parents, from your caregivers, from the environment of your upbringing, right? Consistency, availability, reliability, responsiveness, and predictability, right? And if you didn't have those, what of those pieces were actually missing? And then the more important question is, how do you think that affects how you relate to other people? Because for me, I'm telling you now, my independence is a result of a lack of all of those things in my childhood, in my development, right? I was not getting those elements in my life, and so I decided if I'm not going to be able to get it from the outside, I'd have to find it from the inside, right? Now, the challenge, all right, let me just get to a couple of comments here. Feel free to comment on this. I know it is a one directional chat, like I'm talking and you can't really like talk back to me, but you can definitely throw your comments in there. I would love to share them. If you have your own experiences that you want to share, I'd love to share them with everybody else in our Instagram. Oop, let me mute those notifications in our Instagram and Facebook and on YouTube. And if anything resonates with you, yeah, feel free to share that. So just gonna go quickly through here. Maria mentioned that in our team, we try to remind our members that you're not alone. Feel free to share it with us, the coaches, or other members of the team. We remind them that just sharing can make them feel better. Beautiful. I'm going to get to that point later. Asking for support doesn't mean that you ask for solutions. You just take it out, and it's not necessary to go in details. Sometimes it's just enough to say you're not feeling well. Absolutely. Hey, Gina, from New Jersey also. Secret Garden Bay, that was a mouthful. Yes, well, there's more to come. Okay. So going back to asking for help, right? And asking for support. So one of the challenges for me is also a projection, right? Which I think we all kind of struggle with. And I mentioned that this was some people's responses, right? Like, I am the one that people come to get support, right? I am the person that everyone knows to be strong, to be reliable, to be to have good answers, to have good solutions. So we project ourselves into the world, and we want to maintain that, right? So sometimes asking for help makes us feel like we are exposing ourselves and that we are not being consistent. I'll tell you personally that that's a big challenge for me when it comes to helping others. I feel like when I can't help, and I'm going to go back to that third case, right? The person that's really, really close to me. My own issues, my own, those unrelenting standards in the schema test, right? My own issues with like isolation, abandonment, and those kind of things. For me, when I feel like I can't give the best answer, sometimes I don't even want to engage because I'm scared of, one, disappointing the other person, right? This is the unrelenting standards that you hold yourself to. Disappointment becomes a big factor in what you actually take on in your life and what you engage with and who you engage with, right? So I'm scared of disappointing that person by not being strong enough to help them. But I'm also scared of disappointing myself that I am not able to be this person. And then when it comes to asking for help almost for a long time made me feel like I was weak, right? But here I am, I am strong. I present myself as that. A lot of people know me to be that. So if I now all of a sudden ask for help, how will people view me, right? Will they no longer think I'm strong? Will they now see this weakness and say, I thought she was, but I guess I was wrong, right? A friend of mine shared this small clip from Jim Carrey, famous Canadian actor, who talked about a coach or therapist that he was working with who reframed being depressed, as deep rest. And it's a deep rest from the avatar, as he says, that we put out into the world, right? We all present a face to the world. And sometimes when we can no longer maintain that face, that's where we get into this deep rest, right? Instead of depressed, deep rest, where we need a break, where we need some help, but we need someone who is actually there for us as we are, not as the avatar, right? So part of the importance of asking for help is that sometimes we are putting on this brave face, right? We might talk about weak moments in our life, but we're always trying to show our strength and our stability and our confidence. I am speaking very, very much from personal experience. Okay, so again, part of the reason for these live chats is for me to grow as an individual too, to see what these lessons are that I'm taking out of my own experiences and how am I applying it, right? Because this coming out today to talk about this is a moment of vulnerability, is a moment of like feeling exposed. But how could I possibly invite you to do the same in your life, to get the help and support and to reach out for the help and support that you need, if I'm going to continue to pretend that I don't have to deal with shit, right? That I don't need help, that I don't need support, that I always have the solutions, right? So that's one of the reasons for today's live chat specifically. So this projection, right, of our strength and our confidence sometimes prohibits us from asking because we don't want the other people to look at us and say that this is not the person I expected or thought that they were, because they've always been strong. That's the consistent view I have of them as a result of their engagement with me. And now that I see this weakness, that means they're not that strong. And that's something we don't want. And that's probably mainly ego, if anything, right? The other element of it, based on some of the answers that people were giving, was this element of like not being able to get the support that you need, not wanting to burden other people, right? Like we keep our problems to ourselves because we don't want to burden someone else, or that we don't feel worthy of that attention and interest, right? We don't want to put that pressure on other people. And that's where, like, unfortunately, for the person who passed away, I everyone knows him to be this jolly person. He is always upbeat. That's what people know him to be from his childhood, right? They don't expect to see him in a shitty emotional state. And so he didn't want to burden anybody with the shit that he was going through. He didn't want to ask for help and make people feel like he was weaker. And so he found his escape somewhere else. And unfortunately, that was a fatal outcome, and now no one gets any side of him, not the positive side or the emotionally distraught side, right? And who was it that said here? Sonia, as well as Secret Garden Bay, talked about like non-judgmental eyes, right? We all need help and support at some point, but what we really need is to be heard, not judged, right? We just want that compassion, that support, and that friendship. So a couple of ways to approach it. One is self-help, right? There are tons and tons of books and podcasts and courses and things that you can do on your own that don't really involve another person. If that works for you, great. But ultimately, I do believe in our need for human connection and human contact and human interaction and conversation. But one of the ways to do it, which is one thing that I usually do, which is journal. And in journaling, the approaches that I take to journaling to deal with the difficult moments in my life, I always start and end with gratitude, some expression of gratitude. What am I thankful for? Because when we hit these moments where we are feeling like the world is ending and everything sucks, right? It's easy to want to escape all of that. But when you can find something to be grateful for, it all of a sudden makes it all worth enduring, right? So always starting and ending with gratitude. Writing about your experience, whatever it is that you're going through, is important too. And if it's possible, you want to write about the dips, right? Like those moments that really feel crappy. Because sometimes just writing, at least I find for myself, sometimes just writing feels like I'm talking to the paper, and the paper is kind of talking back to me and asking me questions to elaborate more and express more. And as a result, I come to a place where I'm like, you know what? Not as bad as I thought it was. Or, oh, I understand this better. I am going to be compassionate with myself about what I'm feeling and not beat myself up about this, right? Another element when it comes to journaling, writing about the lessons that you learned, right? In every difficult situation that we're in, there are things that we can take out of that can benefit us, right? Maybe it was something painful emotionally, but did that give you a sign that you are more compassionate, that you're caring, that you love, that you feel deeply, right? So this is a lesson. This is something you've learned about yourself. And then my final point is always trying to write about moments as moments versus this is who I am, right? I used to do that before, like I am this person, but in reality, I am many things and many moments in my life, right? I'm constantly changing as a result of my environment, of my interactions with people, the things that I have learned. I'm growing. I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago. And I'm definitely not the person I was 20, 30 years ago, right? Even with this like young schema test and everything that it says, sure, yes, those are traits that I can recognize, I can identify with, but it doesn't mean I have to stay that way, right? So when you're writing, try to write about it as a moment, even if it's repeated itself in the past, even if this has happened again, right? So that you don't feel like you're doomed to a life of this. But there's a moment, it's a difficult moment, and you're going to get through it. Any questions so far based on these particular points that I mentioned? McGreggy said, I've gotten better at this, but there have been times in the past when I didn't even realize I needed help. And that's also the case for a lot of people. I agree, 100%. And over here we have Wade said, I'm very fortunate to have a big family that even if there was a big absence in any area, there was always someone with their time and wisdom to block the ones that don't. Lovely. Okay, so adding to this, we have one more. Many things at many moments in life. Wow, thank you for sharing that. Glad to hear it. So adding to this is, how do we ask for help, right? When we do need support. One point is sometimes we don't even know we need it. And a lot of times those moments that we don't even know we need it is, again, I think because of conditioning, right? Like I almost always feel like I don't need help. And that doesn't mean I don't need help. That just means that I've been so solo, in my life and childhood and everything, that asking for help just was never a part of the equation. So the word help, reaching out for support, does not factor into whatever I'm going through. That's my conditioning, right? So when it comes to asking for help, like, how do we ask for help? One of the things that's most important is being able to communicate and express ourselves authentically and vulnerably, right? And one of these elements that sometimes we're scared to do is when we ask, we sometimes feel like we're like pointing fingers at people, right? Like, I need support and I'm doing everything and I just don't feel like anyone else is coming through and doing anything for me, right? And this was my experience with, the three things I mentioned: the death, the young schema test, and the person that's really close to me, who I've been wanting to help. But the way it was presented to me, when it was expressed in this way, I felt like I was being personally attacked, right? Like, oh, I'm doing everything. So I'm like, okay, so you're basically telling me I'm doing nothing, even though I'm showing up in this way. And I would take it personally. And as a result of me taking it personally, I don't want to engage now because now I'm feeling attacked, right? So if you can't control that, if you're unable to ask for support in a way that's not pointing a finger at someone else or like blaming, that's okay too. I just want to say that part, because the person you're speaking to hopefully should be able to understand that you're not in the healthiest state of mind, right? When you're venting out about what you're struggling with in your life, just because that other person can't get it, that's okay. But if they are taking offense at the way that you're communicating from your worst place, then they're not the correct resource. They're not the person to talk to. And I was clearly not the person for the person that was really close to me. I was not the greatest resource for this friend, because when she was telling me what she's going through and when she was expressing it in a way that she couldn't control because her emotions were so high because of the struggle she was going through, I took that personally, and I felt attacked. I felt like, you're telling me that I'm not doing anything, but I did this and I did that. And why am I not being validated? And why am I not getting credit for what I'm doing? And I stopped. I lacked the compassion, basically. I was unable to communicate and understand that it's not an attack on me. It is a fight through whatever she's going through. And she's just unable to find the right words to communicate that to me. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. But I read that recently, and they have 12 steps, and one of the steps is making amends, right? And in this step, this is after you do a moral inventory of your life, and like the things that you've done wrong, the people you've wronged, all of those things. And then the next step is basically you're making amends. You're trying to go and right those wrongs. Now, in this process, you're basically going and reaching out to so many people to say you're sorry for a list of things. And maybe we've done that, right? Many of us might have done that in our lives when we know we've wronged somebody, and we go back and we're like, hey, listen, I did this and this. I'm really sorry. I hope you can forgive me. I've had a live chat on that topic about like forgiveness. So you guys can find that on YouTube. All the replays are on YouTube. But there's another element of it which we don't usually go into. In the Alcoholics Anonymous program, this is a necessary step. Part of it is listing out the things that you're sorry for and making amends for those things. But then there's an open door where you ask that person who you're trying to make amends with, you ask that person, is there anything else that you would add to this list, right? So you're putting yourself out there for them saying, and you did this, and you did that, and you did this, right? Now, the beauty of their process is the ability to listen to someone tell you these things and not feel attacked, but understand that they're coming from a place of hurt, right? They might be finger pointing, right? Like, just like, the situation I had with my friend who was saying like, oh, I feel like I'm doing everything, which feels like finger pointing, saying you're doing nothing. And I felt attacked because I was taking it and making it personal. But in the amends process, right, you understand that that person's not attacking you, that they're coming from a place of hurt. And so I've now better understood that when she would communicate this to me, it was not attack. It was just such utter desperation of feeling like there was nothing, there was no help, and there was no support, and she, for whatever reason, could not see what was around. And that's why she was saying the things she was saying in the way that she was saying. All right. Comments? Any comments? I know it is a mouthful because I try to get through these topics because there are a few elements of it that I want to get through before we finish up. Latina Bell said, love that idea, or writing as in the moment or at the moment. That's a definite short video. Appreciate it. I will make a note of that to do that. So there's the element of asking for help, right? Of opening ourselves up to people. But then there's the second element is, who do we ask for help, right? And this is also another thing that I learned from my friend, right? This engagement with my friend. She was reaching out for me to support. And I was feeling attacked. I was personalizing, and I wasn't really being there in the best way. And initially, she felt resentment towards me for not being there, because she expected that from me. But eventually, she understood that I wasn't there. My capacity and willingness wasn't there yet, right? And that's a crucial element for us to understand. And this, again, just like I was saying, my inability to ask for help is my conditioning. My capacity to provide help and support is also partial conditioning, right? Like, we all have our own journey, like our timeline to achieve that level of emotional intelligence and maturity and compassion to actually be there for somebody else, And personally, because I was dealing with a lot of things on my own, I didn't really have to go into any real emotionally deep issues for a while. I wasn't there, right? I could speak to past romantic relationships, for example. For the longest time, I've always been shut down. In the past, like 10 years ago or more, if somebody brought up an issue, I would just shut down. I didn't want to communicate because I didn't want to be judged. I didn't want to say anything that would disappoint this person. I felt that I was the person who had to take the beating, basically, and I couldn't actually say anything to them to say, well, hey, listen, this is how I feel, because my feelings always felt like they were irrelevant and no one cared, right? That was my past, and my ability or my way of dealing with that was by shutting down. And it took me years to get to where I am today, where I can communicate what I'm feeling, and communicate it without pointing a finger. But it took me a long time. Who I was then, I was not capable at that time. Who I am now, yes, I'm more capable. I'm hoping that in 5 years, 10 years, I'll be even more so, right? But I wasn't capable then. And so when we're asking someone for help, like someone was saying, some of the comments on the Facebook post, especially, were like, not seeing that people aren't interested, right? People are judging, or people are unable to like give you time or whatever it is. And that's mainly because of their own growth, their own things that they've dealt with. There's this psychologist, Nicole Opera, and she put it really beautifully. How your partner was loved will show up in how patient they are when they express themselves, how they react when you open up to them, and how they respond when you ask them to meet a need. And that's your partner, but I think we can apply that to literally anyone that you're asking for help, right? How people show up depends on how they were loved, how they were supported, how they were attended to when they needed help, when they needed support, right? If someone doesn't have that healthy history and healthy relationship, it's going to be really difficult for them to know what the hell to do with you, right? Not to say that you're an issue when you come presenting support, but if I don't know, if I've never received support, I don't understand what I'm supposed to do, right? There are many people, right, that are strong enough to take care of themselves, but aren't necessarily strong enough to take care of others. Like, I feel I'm strong enough to take care of myself. This situation this year with this friend, I realized I wasn't strong enough to take care of her. I wasn't able to. I did, like, my own fears, my traumas, my triggers, my insecurities, my projections, my childhood, my the way I was loved and supported, or lack thereof, that debilitated my ability to be there, and with my own unrelenting standards, back to that young schema thing, right? With my own unrelenting standards, where I don't want to disappoint anybody, right? I always want to make sure I am at the very top. I'm perfect. Like, nothing can be criticized. I try and do everything so that I'm not disappointing anyone, and there's an element of self-protection, right? Of like, I think that I'm going to disappoint this person. And so I don't want to engage. I'd rather not get involved. I'd rather not say yes to supporting or helping or being there for this person, because I am scared to face my own limitations of being able to be there as a supportive person, right? So a couple of comments here. Let's see about what about those that need help but are too proud to even formulate the question? How do we overcome pride or other feelings that come up when trying to ask for help from others? I'm going to get to that in a second. Continuing with, like, how we show up to offer support, right? Question to all of you, I guess, would be, some of you already answered it in terms of, like, what does support look like to you when you ask, or like, if you needed support, what does that look like? And I'm going to assume, but feel free to correct me if you think otherwise, like, what do you think being there for someone else actually means? A lot of times what I thought being there for someone else meant was providing a solution. You come to me with a problem, I got a solution for you, right? That's what I used to think, because that's how I dealt with myself. I had a problem, I needed a solution. That's what I did. I came up with solutions, right? But support sometimes, and most of the time, is listening first. Is to understand and acknowledge this person in front of you and just listen to them. And it's not about always fixing and providing solutions. There are many times in retrospect when I think about my own life, like things that I've had to go through, that there was no fix. Like, how do you fix, a breakup, right? You can't fix my broken heart. You can't give me some tip and say, okay, boom, here's a sprinkle of magic powder and now you don't feel that anymore. There's no fix. There's no quick fix. What I needed in all of those situations was a friend to talk to, right? So we know this when it comes to what we need sometimes, right? Is someone to just listen to us, to not judge us, to just listen to us, to let us vent. And yet, when it comes to providing support, we think it's much more loaded than that. And it often isn't, right? We think we need to provide solutions, right? We need to provide a fix. I mean, there are many times, like how many times have you been in a conversation with someone who's sitting there saying, I'm going through this. And while they're talking, all you're doing in your head, I'll tell you, I do that a lot in my head. All you're doing in your head is saying, what would I do if I was in that situation? Oh, I'd probably reach out to that person. Oh, and then I would get that part fixed. Oh, and then I would also buy this thing to do, right? How many times are we constantly processing the solution in our head, like fixing something, right? So that means the part that we're supposed to be there for, which is the listening part, we're not even doing that, right? We're not even there in the best way possible because we are preoccupied with the solution, right? Ultimately, when it comes to providing support, the key is compassion. And this is what I learned from my very close friend was she just needed to be heard, And sometimes, because I was coming up with so many solutions, I did not hear that. She just needed to speak, right? I mean, how many times when you get a chance to vent to somebody, do you feel better after that, right? Because when we're dealing with issues, we're like dealing with the problem, right? We're sometimes so stuck in the moment that we don't see anything outside of it. All we see is the problem. When we talk about it, however, even if it's journaling, like I said, or talking to someone else, but just really talking, letting it all out, it helps us put things into perspective, to understand it better, to know that it's not everything. It's a moment, right? Or a hug. I mean, most of us are, on the phone or on chat or whatever like that. But when you're in person with somebody, like how much does a hug communicate? There are many times when I've talked to close friends, and again, me with my projection of I'm strong, I'm confident, and I can handle this, and I'm just fine, right? Where I'm talking to somebody about something that hurts, and I'm trying to keep that straight face, that strong face, right? Because I want to be consistent. I want you to know I can be there for you even though I'm feeling weak. Don't worry about that because I'm still strong, right? Where I'm having this conversation with someone and they're just listening and then they give me a hug. And when I get that hug, it's like, a waterfall of tears, because that little action had such a great impact. No words needed to be said. There was no solution. There was no fix. But through that hug, through listening to me, I felt compassion. I felt seen. I felt heard. I felt supported, right? So it's not easy to ask. And, this comment that Latina Bell just said, how do we overcome pride or others' feelings that come up when trying to ask for help, from other people, like where we feel that we can ask for help. I mean, ultimately, like I said, it's a personal journey, right? I'll just reveal it. I'm 41 right now, but I wasn't there for 40 years of my life. Okay. This ability, which I'm still working on, I'm not great at, but I'm working on it. This ability to show myself, right? To be vulnerable, to open up without a solution, right? To open up and just say, I need to talk. I am feeling like shit, and I just want to talk about it, right? That is really, really recent because of my conditioning from childhood, but also my lack of awareness of that conditioning, right? My ability to say, whatever, psychiatrist, psychologist, attachment styles, personality tests, whatever, you don't know me, right? And then for some reason this year, I've gotten to a more mature place, a more emotionally intelligent place. And it's allowed me to look at those things and say, where do I stand on this spectrum? How has my past experiences in childhood, how has it affected me, and how is it showing up today? And if I truly believe that I have agency over my life, then how can I work at this to get rid of these hurdles, to get rid of these saboteurs in my life and build better relationships, right? So I'm saying 41 and this year is really where I've had a lot of breakthroughs because I have explored myself and I have been willing to be vulnerable with myself, right? So to answer your question earlier, Latino Bell, which was about like people who are too proud to ask, it's everyone's journey. Unfortunately, you can't make someone less proud, right? You just have to show them that there's nothing wrong with their weaknesses because we all have them, right? And in fact, if you want to be proud, like what I'm starting to see and how I'm reframing it is the weak parts in our life that we experience in our life, the struggles that we experience, those moments where we feel like we are at our lows, they are the real examples of how strong we are, right? Because we almost always get through them. I mean, go back if you have to, write down all the moments that were really difficult for you in your life. Like today, in retrospect, you might have a difficult time writing that out. Like I know there's some crazy shit that I've been through. But today, if I speak about it, I speak about it nonchalantly. I'm like, oh, yeah, then that. And oh, I got into a fight. Oh, this happened. And, the car flipped and I was in an accident. Like nothing. But in that moment, it was fear. I was wrought with fear. Right. But I got through it. Right. So one of the ways to bring something out from someone who you know to be proud, who might not just be proud, but might just be conditioned, right, to not ask for help, like someone like me, right, is to show them the weakness is the strength, right? You can't have the strength without strengthening something. I mean, like, how are you strong, right? We grow in strength, right? We don't want our strength to be a flat line. We want to keep getting stronger. And how do we do that? By rising, right? And we rise from lower moments in our life. So showing that to someone, sharing that with someone, explaining that, in whatever ways you need to. But the best way to explain that is by revealing yourself. Right? We can't be there for people or ask them to open up to us when we don't show any vulnerability to them. Ultimately, right? We need to be able to say, "Hey, this is what I went through." And I'm not sure that it's anything like what you're going through. I'm not trying to equate the two. However, this is how I felt. I felt helpless. I felt desperate. I felt like there was nothing I could do. This is what I did. I reached out and, yeah, I asked somebody, but they weren't capable of meeting my needs in that moment because they're going through their own thing. And I accept that. I'm compassionate as a human being to understand not everyone is capable, right? And I accept that. But by not giving up, by continuously reaching out, I was able to make a better contact, to find a better resource, someone who can help. And through that support, I was able to now get to a better place, right? Because the person going through a weak point, understanding that there's strength beyond that weak point is one thing, right? They're learning, they're growing, they're becoming stronger. You as a resource for that person, helping them, right? Being there to listen to them, to give them a hug, also allows you to learn about each other and build a stronger relationship too. There are so many relationships we have where it's all about the good times, right? It's all about, hey, yeah, let's go have a drink, and yeah, we talk about things, but we don't really talk about anything in depth, or talk about things as solutions, right? Like, what do you think about this idea and that idea as a solution to this problem? But we don't ever really open up vulnerably. But to everyone I have ever opened up to vulnerably, truly, purely, like, just blah, here's my myself, and I wanted to say ugly self, but it's actually a beautiful self, so I didn't say it, but that's what I just felt. Like, even me right now in this chat, right? I still struggle with the ability to correctly identify what reaching out for help is, right? Even I'm like, oh, that's so ugly. Oh, that's not good, but it is good, right? So those people that I was able to open up with, that I was able to share everything, like, without basically like that ugly cry, those are my closest friends. Those people, those relationships are that CARP thing, right? They're consistent, they're available, they're responsive, they're predictable. They are there, and I know that, and I can feel that. And when they aren't there, I don't immediately say, oh, you failed as a friend. No, I look at that and say, what are you going through right now? Because I know you to be a compassionate individual. So the fact that you can't be there right now, I'm not going to attack you and say you're a shitty person. No, I'm going to say, what could you be going through? Right? Because failure to get the help that we need, we tend to identify it as lack of interest, lack of worth on our part. We're like, why would I bring this problem up to anybody? Who's interested in my problems? Who cares about me? I'm not worthy of this level of support, or this level of attention, or this level of interest, right? But it's not that, right? It's not a reflection of your worth. It's just a reflection of that person's capacity. So ultimately, with help and support, it's resources and systems. Who are your resources? Do you understand what a good resource looks like? Are you able to assess those moments when you're talking to somebody and they are judgy or they're defensive, and instead of furthering your emotional state and getting more riled up and feeling more alone because this person can't be there, are you able to instead kind of say, I get it. You're going through your own shit, or you've had a lack of support in your life, and so you're kind of dealing with me in this way. I understand, but you're not the person I need to be speaking to right now. No bad feelings, no ill will. I'm not burning this bridge, but I just can't come to you for this right now. Right? And maybe they'll grow. Just like I said, with this close friend, I was not there for her last year, but I am there for her now. I did not know how to be there for her last year, but I'm learning now, right? And we say, for example, like we say, oh, even I said it earlier, actually. Sometimes providing support is not about a fix or a solution. It's just listening or just giving a hug. But it's not just, right? Just almost diminishes it. Oh, it's just a grain of rice. It's just a crumb, right? It's trivial and insignificant. It's not just. It is everything. Being able to be 100% present and listen to someone. Being able to listen to them and give them a hug of compassion and support is not just a hug. It's not just listening. It is everything. So when you're talking to people, right, if you want to be there for somebody who's got ego and pride, right, first you got to break through that hurdle that they feel like this is a weakness to ask for support. And one of the ways to do that is to open up with your own vulnerability, right? And then you might see maybe you're not actually as willing to be the person you're asking this person to be with you, right? Just same thing with this best friend. Last year, I didn't open up at all. I was going through my own stuff and I kept that stuff private. This year, now that we've gotten to a point where I understand, wow, you just needed me. You needed me. I keep saying just, I want to get rid of that out of my vocabulary. You needed me to listen to you. That's what you needed. And I couldn't be that. And how many times have I reached out to you so you could listen to me, right? So that's the dealing with like someone who might have pride and conditioning there. And then ultimately, it's not about eliminating the difficulties, because the difficulties are our experiences. That's our life, right? That's how we get through it. Those are the colorful paint on the wall, right? Like, yeah, red represents blood, but like throw that on the wall and now it could make this really beautiful artwork. And that final artwork is going to be our life, right? So I don't want to eliminate blacks and grays and all those things because they add to my painting. They add to who I am, right? I don't want to eliminate the difficult experiences. I want to go through them because I believe that I can learn and grow from them, and not just learn and grow from them individually, but just like this live chat, hopefully bring some of that back to other people and help other people learn and grow, right? But can't do that if we don't, one, reach out for help, and two, show up for other people. And in showing up for other people, understand what our limitations are and attack them, tackle them, you know? Okay, wow. Blah, blah, blah. So I said scientific research suggests 8 hugs per day to reduce stress. Ooh, wow, that is 42. You say 8 hugs or 42 to reduce stress? And Secret Garden say, talking through your emotions made me focus and appreciate your message. You know, most of you already know, but let me throw that disclaimer out there. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a psychiatrist. You know, that's not my field of expertise or my area of studies or anything like that. I've coached people. I'm coaching people with mindset and all of these things. But what I'm sharing with you today is my personal experience with giving and receiving support. It has been a challenge for me. It continues to be a challenge for me. It is a constant, like, I am hitting a wall every time I want to ask for help. And that wall is nobody else. That wall is me. You know, that wall is me sitting there saying, you're weak. Don't be weak. You know, nobody cares about you. Why would you ask anyone to do anything? You know, who's ever been there for you? No one's going to be there for you ever. So stop relying on people. That's my own wall. That's my own insecurities and defenses, you know, against a life that I had, which is not the life that I have. And so if I can stop defending against something that's not present, I can approach it and interact with it better. And what I learned through this friend about listening, it was really like a breakthrough. I mean, I talk about listening all the time, and I can do that with coaching stuff because I'm there almost in a professional way, right? This is my job, is to listen, right? So of course I'm going to be there and do my job right. Why? Because unrelenting standards, I have to do my job to the best of my ability. But I didn't look at it in the same way for someone really close to me, right? Just listen, or not just listen, listen. That is one big step of the equation. Saita said, it's okay to have a wall to protect yourself. Maybe you can lower it step by step as you trust certain people. Of course, I'm not saying you go out and blabber everything to everybody. That's not the point here, right? Point is that many of us have a lot of really close friends with whom we still don't share, right? With people who we still don't reach out to, with people who we still put on a strong face, right? It's not about trusting everyone. Not everyone is worthy of that trust, actually. And not because they necessarily mean you ill, doesn't mean that they want to do damage to you because now you reveal something to them, but because they're just not capable of handling it in a way that would be respectful, right? not because of intention, but just their own conditioning and what they think is acceptable, right? Not everyone deserves that. I'm fine with that. But we have a lot of close people, and sometimes we don't even approach those close people, and I'm seeing that for myself this year in particular, right? But I'm also seeing what a beautiful blossoming of a relationship can take place when we do open up, when we do show our vulnerable sides, when we start to acknowledge our weaknesses as steps to our strengths and not as permanent states of being, as moments. Oh, I'm frozen. Uh-oh. Okay. I should be back there shortly. Any other comments here? Feel free to. McGregor said, 41 is still young. I've heard that the 40s are the decade where people really learn to break through the BS rules they created earlier in life. Yep. I guess that's it. That's in the 40s. If you have any questions, of course, feel free to reach out. My website, magnagopal.com, the contact section. Take a moment, please, to share your feedback form. And again, like I said, I will pick a random name out of all of those who answered this month's. So the feedback for this particular live chat, I'll pick a random name. You'll get a discount off of the monthly membership for the combo membership, which includes all of the dance database tutorials, replays, mindset tips and techniques, and then also all of the fitness stuff too, which is one of the ways I train my mind, right? I push my body so that my mind can have a reference for how to push through mental obstacles and hurdles as well. So that will be there, magnagopal.com/feedback. I would like to understand how this helped, if it helped, if there was any nuggets that you took out of it that you could apply, if you saw yourself in anything that I said or that I shared. That whole idea of being heard and being seen and not feeling alone is sharing your experiences with other people. Trust certain people or trust yourself first. Easier said than done, of course, but trust that you will go through this and get it over as you have already done so far. Absolutely. And it definitely is easier to relate to someone in a vulnerable way when they're willing to do the same. Yep. Cool. So I would like to thank you all for joining me today. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your attention and your interest in the topic. And for everyone who answered the comments or not the comments, the question that I posed on Instagram and on Facebook, thank you so much, because that really helped me guide today's live chat. It helped me really outline the points that I wanted to discuss, because in your answers, I saw myself, and I was thinking when I was first talking about this, or when I was first planning to talk about this, I'm like, whoa, I don't know if I want to share all of this stuff. And then I saw how many people talked about appearing weak, being judged, like being conditioned to not ask, right? Being the one who's the pillar of support and not being able to ask for support. All of these things, when I saw your answers, that's where I was like, I am definitely not alone here. And I think I need to talk about all of this, because clearly many of us go through that, right? Sonia said, I really appreciate this topic. Thank you so much for sharing. I totally relate. Appreciate it. Sonia, please, feedback form, magnagopal.com/feedback. I would very much appreciate it. And of course, my gift to you, the winner out of the pool rather, of people who submit their feedback for this month's live chat, you get the discount on a month's membership at learn.magnagopal.com. Esco, thank you. Thank you all. I hope you have a lovely rest of your afternoon. Saida, you're never alone. Thank you for sharing and opening up to us. My pleasure. I'll tell you one thing. One of the things that I thought about at the funeral, this is my last point, right? One of the things that I thought about at the funeral was deserving to die. Now, this is next level self-criticism, being really critical of yourself and judging yourself, right? But I looked at his life and I was like, he did not deserve to die. And I thought about my own life and I was like, I don't deserve to die yet. And one of the reasons is because I want to make sure that I somehow or another get all of these things that I have accumulated, all these notes, all these topics, like things I've written about for years, that I wanted to put out into the world. I don't feel like I deserve to die until I've done that. Like my biggest regret on my deathbed would be dying with knowledge still in my head and not having put that out there in some form, video, blog, book, anything, or communication with somebody, coaching someone, right? That would be my biggest regret, would be dying with anything left here. I want to make sure that I put all of it out there before I'm dead. So that's one of the purposes of this live chat as well, is to share as much as I can in this time that I'm on the earth. I know I'm young. I'm 41. I'm not going to die anytime soon. You never know. But yeah. With that, thank you very much again. I hope you all have a lovely afternoon, a lovely rest of your week, and I will see you at next month's live chat. Keep an eye out. It's on Wednesdays, the first Wednesday of every month. I think even though the first Wednesday of January is January 4th, which is pretty into the week. So I think we'll still continue with that. So keep an eye out for that. The replays for these live chats are available on YouTube. So if for whatever reason you've missed it or you just came in at the end and you want to catch up, you can find it on YouTube. One of my friends here, Wade, who helps me with the timestamps, usually goes in and marks all of that. So eventually there's also timestamps so you can forward through the live chat to the sections that you're looking for. To share it, of course, please, if you found this message useful in any way to you, share it with other people, share the link, the YouTube link. You can also cut clips apparently and share just the clip so they can go watch the clip. And if they want to watch the whole thing, they can just click on that button and it takes them to the whole video. So there's that option as well. And if you want to add extra support other than liking, subscribing, sending a feedback form, there is a link on the description for Facebook and YouTube called Ko-fi, Ko-fi. You can buy me a coffee. I always have something and I never drink it because I start talking and then I never stop talking. So yeah, if you want to buy me a coffee for the next live chat, you can go and do that as showing support. And if you're on Facebook, you can always buy badges. I think that's what they're called. Or go to Ko-fi, which I think you can find on my Instagram link in bio. That one, Linktree big. Okay. All right. I hope you all have a lovely day. Until the next time, thank you again for being here. Ciao, ciao, ciao. Thanks for showing up, Manuel. I'm glad you made it.